Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
All right, everybody, it's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcasts. There's an amazing show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards. The Outer Realm in the category of Best Female Hosted Podcast. The Outer Realm is a very popular show hosted by Michelle and Amelia Pisano, which boasts millions of listeners each week who are well known for and have been complimented on their very laid-back, roundtable style of interviewing. Together, this dynamic duo brings you the best of the best with guests from around the world who are well-versed within their respective fields of ufology, paranormal, esoteric, and other areas of high strangeness, and more. So go to podcastawards.com to nominate The Outer Realm in the category Best Female Hosted Podcast. That's podcastawards.com, and please take a moment and do it now.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday night segment of The Outer Realm. We're broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network, UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans. We're fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee, who've been a part of our journey for a few years now, and we're really, really humbled and grateful to have them as part of our Outer Realm family. So big thank you to Folgers Coffee. Also, big thank you to Justin Snicker, aka Dr. Snick, the Sonic Surgeon, for his contribution of his voice, his music, and his time for our new intro. Well, not new, our intro that you just heard. It's new for us. We love it. So big thank you, Dave. Also, big thank you to Steve McGinnis, the artist behind all of our logos and banners here on the show. So you can check him out on Facebook and Instagram. Much like Justice Snicker, he basically specializes in the horror genre and does some pretty phenomenal stuff. So tonight we are talking about haunted travel destinations. It's summertime, so we thought it would be a really good time to get the show on the road with some people. We know school's out for, the United States and other countries around the world, and Canada's trailing behind. So we're getting there. Before we start that, we'd like to send out, all this whole submarine, the Titan and Titanic and so on and so forth. We want to offer our condolences to the families of the people who are on board Titan. It's just, people have their opinions on it, and it is what it is. But at the end of the day, it's not a happy outcome. And there's some people left behind in all this. And there was a young man on there who really didn't want to go along, but went because of his father. And it was very important to his father. So it is what it is again. So from Amelia and I at the Outer Realm, deepest condolences to friends and families of those who were lost. So now, people chiming in. I like that. So we've got Chris being a ham in the chat room last night.
I was in Facebook chat with two people. I was like so lonely.
I know. It was lonely. I know everybody was
in YouTube.
Yeah. It's funny because the pre-recorded videos are always a little bit different. And, but gosh, they're so informative, and it gives us a chance to get into chat and interact with you guys also, directly. So we're kind of watching it along with you, especially Amelia, because There's a daytime recording, so she couldn't make it.
I got to hear it for the first time.
Right.
So, but I love Mark Ollie, so
Yeah, oh,
I
he's
could listen to
wonderful.
him over and over again, and last night was no different. I mean, Merlin and King Arthur.
Yeah.
I will always call him King Arthur.
Even though he was never a king.
Well,
you guys have to go back and watch that segment. I'm telling you, it was really.
And he's so
great.
animated when he speaks, and he really keeps you tuned in. He keeps you there. So I love that about him.
He's got a lot of these British mannerisms. I'm used to them because of Wayne. Like early days, Wayne gave me a list of all the British comments. He goes, so you know what I'm talking about? I'm like, okay. And I didn't think much of it, but then he started saying things and I'd be just laughing. I was like, I can't believe that's even a freaking word. So Mark Ollie was spewing off a few things in the chat or in the show yesterday, and Chris was just having a grand old time. He goes, I know, just tell me to shut up. I should stop.
Oh my God. I'm used to it.
I don't know who's more humorous.
Yeah. I have friends and family who are British, so I'm so used to it. But I learned a lot. I learned a lot over the years. It doesn't faze me now when someone says something because I'm so used to hearing it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I catch them. Then when I made friends with like Paul Francis, who's a host on our network, he's Irish but lives in Cornwall. I had to learn a whole new set of different things that I didn't catch on and got offended by when there were no offense. Like, what do you mean by that? He's like, no, it means this. I'm like, oh, okay. Because it's not British. Just saying, it's a whole other, he's got his Irish-isms and then his Cornish isms. So yeah,
it's funny any way you look at it. It just makes me laugh. It really does. It's just, the whole world is like that. They all have their own little mannerisms, sayings. Wanker is my favorite. I'm all going on about wanker.
Can I tell you something that made me pee my pants the first time I heard it? And I didn't hear it. It was in a text, and it was my friend Dean Lanyon, who is Cornish, like born and bred. And I said, what are you doing? Are you taking your daughters out? Like, what are you doing today? And he says, I'm going for some. Now he writes the word Pasty, but Pasties. I read it as pasties.
Oh,
but it's pasties, which is an English pie, like with meat filling.
Right.
But the way he said it and wrote, I'm like, what? You're getting their daughters what? He's like, yeah, the meat filled, and I'm like, it took me a second. That was the word that threw me. That was 2014. It won't throw me now, but that was the word that threw me the most. Yes, Cornish pasties. Yes,
he knows.
But in Canada and the United States, I may add, that word is read pasties.
Right. You're not wrong.
Okay. So when you're texting that to me, you're not saying it. If I had heard him say pasties, I would have automatically, you can tell pastry pasty, right?
Yeah, right.
But it was texted, and I'm like, you're doing what?
But you see pastries, you're just taking the R out.
That's what I just said.
Yeah.
So, you just, but he.
In all fairness to us over here in the West.
Yeah, but it was like, it was just through me. I'm like, what do you mean you're getting your daughter's pasties?
I know.
Like twin girls, 11 years old at the time. What the hell are you talking about?
I know.
But anyways, we got that one done.
That's a whole other show.
That was the one that threw me the most. Everything else I'm used to, like dodgy and wanker. Yeah. Those are all.
I know.
There's some that I learned from Hamilton once in a while too, though.
Oh, he spews them off regularly.
He throws a couple that I have to stop and.
I know.
Because I think it depends on what part you're from.
Oh, no. Some of it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
But tonight, guys.
Yeah, Yokaka.
I know. Haunted travel destinations. I thought it would be fun to start with something in New Orleans, since that's where the network is from. I know there's so many. There's so many. I mean, I think, and I only go back based on some of the stuff Joe had said. So we just got little tidbits. But you have bigger explanations for some than others. But
Sorry.
hold on.
Hair's blowing around here with the damn fan.
I know, right?
Oof.
No. Let's start off with John Lafitte's Old Absence House. This is like this is a restaurant. So I'm going to read this because I can't remember everything, people. I try, but no, I'm getting old. So anyhow, so
I have to print everything.
So Andrew Jackson allegedly met the outlaw pirate to discuss plans for a British attack on the War of 1812. He agreed to free Lafitte's army of pirates if they in turn agreed to fight in the Battle of New Orleans. So originally built in 752, destroyed in 1788 in the Great Friday Fire that ravaged the city within hours. The current building was reconstructed in 1806, but as far as ghost tales go, the ghost sightings included Jackson himself, as well as spirits of Marie Laveau and Benjamin Butler, who used to visit there periodically. Other ghost sightings include a woman in a long white dress and a child running up somewhere up on the third floor. So many visitors have experienced sudden drops in temperature, doors opening and closing, chairs, bottles moving around on the bar, and
That's
hearing whispers
active.
seemingly coming from nowhere. So this is a place, if you're in New Orleans, called Jean Lafitte's Old Absence House. So I know, right?
I don't believe that there is a square inch of New Orleans that is not haunted.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Harriet Tubman, like you think about all the ritualists and the rituals that went on, and then all the people in the Underground Railroad that she brought across. How many people lost their lives trying to make that voyage? And it was a long one, and she did it, I can't even remember how many times,
right,
without failure. You know, I honestly don't believe there is a square inch that is not haunted. I really don't. I don't think you can go wrong with anywhere that you visit in New Orleans, but this is exceptionally active.
It is. I'll see. Yeah. You know what? Like you say, New Orleans, I think so much tragedy.
Yeah.
You know, even right down to, you know, the last time, you know, it ended up underwater like that. So much loss of life there as well.
Oh, Katrina. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. You know, oh yeah, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. But
well,
even
Anne
like
Rice had a field day in there. Yeah,
for sure. But there's a lot of stories that go around that. The next one for New Orleans is the Sultan's Palace. This one's kind of wiggy. Built in the 1800s, it was a home of a sultan who was a very wealthy man with multiple wives and children. He had a harem of women and many young boys held there against their will. Neighbors complained about the mysterious habits of partying with opium and torture. The palace's biggest mystery was the sultan's demise. He was buried alive in the courtyard after his family and harem were hacked to pieces in a bloodbath by an unknown perpetrator. Today, his angry spirit is thought to be responsible for unusual noises, loud music, strong incense smell, as well as unwelcome advances on past female visitors. The crab, right? Like,
wow.
I know that to me is just like, I don't know, man. Call me crazy, but that's.
Dolly says this because people are not buried in the ground. There's crypts everywhere. Italy is like that as well. They don't bury you in the ground. In fact, until the pandemic, you did not see that because they had to do those mass graves because of the, you know.
Yeah,
but anyways, even in Italy, it's crypts above ground. My parents are in a mausoleum. They don't believe in being buried in the ground. But I didn't know that would be a reason for that to be so haunted. I would have thought just from all the violence that happened there and all of the storms.
Well, that too. I mean, plus things aren't what they seem. Like Tamara used to think like there's a graveyard for Madame Laveau, but but some people believe she's not actually buried.
She's not there.
See?
Yeah. But yet people will bring offerings and have sightings of her.
But well, yeah, I wonder if she's got possessions there. Or, I don't know. It's interesting.
I don't know. Or is it that they're seeing her? Are they manifesting her? Or is it an illusion because you're in such a deep state in desperation to want to?
I believe anything's possible.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just one of those cities. Sure. look at the stories that Joe has even told us about vampires. Just strange things going on, and people just disappearing. Like like people just see them. They look around. It's like people who are like forever old. They've been there forever. And there's so many tales of vampires. And I'm trying to think of the name of one. Let me see if I can bring this up, because it's who's the name of that vampire?
They have a lot of creepy stuff down there.
Oh, heck yeah. I'm just going to see if I can bring it up, because it is just like, oh my gosh. Hold on. I probably won't be able to find it. Of course I won't be able to find it. Okay. Well, I can't just be reading the whole time. So, Saint Germain. That's the one. Exactly. Do you know there are photographs of him right up to the 80s? And when people go back, like, a couple hundred years, there's descriptions of him and drawings of him. And the guy sits there and thinks, like, what the heck? Like, people are looking at him going, is this even possible? And then all of a sudden, the guy just disappeared. I wish I could find his information. I'm just going to see, because there's a lot of info on this guy. And I think I was going to do a gray zone on this at one time.
Can I just answer Chris's question really quickly? Since you're searching, Chris asked, isn't Jim Morrison buried in New Orleans? And I quickly Google searched that because I don't know. I mean, I was 2 years old when he died, but he is buried in Père Lachaise Cemetery in Paris, France.
Yeah.
He's not buried, but they're both French, so I could see how.
Close enough, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, no. Count Saint Germain, also this New Orleans, an alchemist who may have discovered the secret of immortality. You think? I think maybe he did too, because people see him everywhere. He was believed to have been president of the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD. He's appeared many times through history, with the most recent being the 70s, always as a 45-year-old man. Records show he was born in the late 1600s. But yet he was present in 325 AD. That makes, it bounces around. Traveled in upscale cities in around 1742, and known by some of the most famous European figures such as Casanova, Madame de Pompadour, King Louis XV, Catherine the Great, Voltaire, Anton Mesmer. Like he traveled in amazing circles, linked to many secret societies such as the Rosicrucians, Freemasons, Illuminati, Order of the Templars, the Knights of Light, the Society of Assaic Brothers. In 1779, he went to Hamburg, Germany, where he befriended Prince Charles of Hesse-Kassel, remained there for 5 years, and he just drops off, and then shows up with his most recent appearance in 1972 in Paris, where a man named Richard Chanfray announced that he was a count and appeared on TV to try to prove his claim. Anyway, apparently he committed suicide in 1983 and showed up in New Orleans in 1902. And he is known even today as the infamous Louisiana vampire, and went by Jacques Saint Germain. And he lived at 1041 Royal Street. But I don't know. Like, what do you guys think? That's kind of different. I don't think he's a vampire. I suspect he's some type of immortal. Yeah.
He reminds me of Dorian Gray.
Yeah.
The story of Dorian Gray with Oscar Wilde. How he just constantly reappears and his painting keeps changing with his face, but nobody really knows what he is.
See? That's the thing.
I love that film.
I love that film too. I'm so all about that. I love it.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great film.
Okay, so you want to go to one of your list haunted locations now?
Sure. I only have a couple because I'll talk with everybody, because I was saying to Michelle knows this about me. I've never purposely investigated anything other than when I've been with her. I used to mostly work in crime, which I have some news for you after the show, Michelle. Okay. Remind me.
All right.
So
I have some mostly, for you too.
Oh, wow. Okay. I worked mostly high profile murders and things like that. So anyways, I know a lot of people head towards Europe and really, again, like New Orleans, it's really hard to find something that's not haunted in countries that are as old as theirs are, as ancient, and as many different civilizations and races that have crossed their land and their waters. So being Italian, most Italians spend, believe it or not, they spend a good chunk of their summer in Italy if they can. They'll often go for 2-3 months at a time. If you're going to this section of Venice, which is a popular destination, and Tuscany is just a stone's throw away. So we'll start with the Tuscan one. And again, I have to read it from the paper because I can't remember.
Yeah, that's
poop.
okay. We're
I can't remember poop.
You can't remember it all. That's crazy.
Yes.
I remember all that stuff.
Well, it's just too much information in a short time. But in San Gimignano, which is a tiny medieval village in Tuscany, there is a medieval criminal and torture museum where you can see the tools utilized to torture sufferers, get this, during the Roman interrogation. These tools, like guillotines, iron maidens, torture benches, were used on heretics, believe it or not. Also, people practicing promiscuity, homosexuality, Protestantism, and Judaism. The tools used and the display of the victims will leave you with a sense of unprecedented horror. I wish I could share these pictures with you. They're literally collars with spikes in them.
But you can.
Everything that you, I know, but there's a big thing right across it. That's why I didn't send it, because there was a big stupid get a customized quote like right across it, right? That's what happens when you Google things. But there are about 10 highly recommended locations. I'm only giving you 3 because now, if you're in Tuscany and you've seen that, you just take a short car ride over to Venice, and
you're there.
Wait for
Bob's your uncle.
Yes. And then I've got one in northern Italy. Wait for this. So Michelle and I have often spoken of Poveglia. And Poveglia is an island that's off of Venice, and I will explain to you how they used it. But what I need to tell you, that they are basing approximately 160,000 humans remains on this island. Okay, so keep that in mind while I'm talking. My mother used to say, instead of send them to go themselves, she would say manda Poveglia. Send them to Poveglia, so you die. Anyway.
Nice.
Okay, so it's there's a lagoon around it, and it's a forbidden island. You're not allowed to go on there because of you could pick up all kinds of toxins, you could pick up bacteria, and you'll probably be knee deep in bone ash. Yeah,
because it's spongy.
It's a small island, and it's surrounded by water. The well-known legend has it that a ghost, but the Italians call it a strega. There's a witch. Ill-fated the island, making it never more to dwell again, and people denied to breathe there. So with that, they would they made it as a mass funeral spot during the Black Death and another plague. So they would just send everybody who was sick there to die. They would just leave them there. But this isn't just it. Okay. Later, after sending people to die there, and there's bones and people just buried all over this island.
Yeah.
They turned it into a hospital.
They did.
For the mentally ill.
Oh my God.
They did this. That's what the building is on top of it, is the psych ward. Okay. And there was a surgeon who was psycho, who butchered patients with experimental treatments. He went crazy himself, died from jumping from the 2nd-story window, must have landed on cement. But it remains a mystery as to where his body went, because it was never found. Well, no kidding. All that ash. But anyways, through its documented antiquity, it's concluded that on average, 160,000 humans died on Poveglia, authenticating its standing as one of the most haunted places in Sorrento, Italy, as well as the world. They have the greatest number of deaths per square meter of land.
Well, they said
it's a tiny island.
It's like 7-hectare plot. The island is a 7 7-hectare plot that was used as a mass grave.
Yeah, it's tiny.
Well, think about that.
7 hectares is 7. What is that? 7 football fields? Canadian football fields. Our football fields are a lot bigger than the American ones.
Right.
That's why when NFL players come up here, they can't breathe when they run the length of it. Just saying. It's just the truth.
Oh, no,
so
for sure.
If you want something that's not going to kill you, if you go over to the Grand Canal over in Venice, did you want me to do all of them now? Since I'm in Italy? Wait, did you just want me to do one?
Well, yeah, no, we'll do it, and then we'll move on to some other ones. We'll do it.
So I only have 2 more.
Oh, it's okay. So for here, some of the things that on Poveglia.
Poveglia.
Okay, whatever.
There, look, you sound like a native. I love it, even with the hands. Poveglia. I love it.
You're rubbing off on me.
I was just going to say that, but she always finishes my sentences.
The bell tower was actually removed there, yet locals can still hear the bell on occasion. And I know my daughter wasn't too far from it. And I remember her messaging me because we sent her to Italy for Christmas one year. And
nice.
She goes, that crazy island. I can see it from here. I'm going, where are you? I said, you didn't tell me we were going there because they were just traveling around. She goes, oh, yeah. She goes, but I can't. She goes, we're not allowed on there, says. So, the researcher in me is going, I'll pay somebody to take you.
Yeah.
But then the mom in me is going, no, don't go.
There's a reason why. Yeah.
It's true. It's dangerous. And she said she felt sick because she's very empathic, very, very open. She felt sick just being not that far from it. And
I believe it because she can see it from the land.
Oh, she can. And she said it was crazy.
Well, the canal, but you know what I mean? You can see it from the city. It's right there. It's not far.
And I know that there was, a couple of TV shows, because I've seen the segments from both different television shows who actually went there when they used to allow people to film. And both different shows, one I think was Scariest Places on Earth. I love that freaking show.
Yeah,
back in 70s or 80s, and they had unbelievable experiences. And the other one is this some people love them, some people not so much show that shall remain nameless, but they went in there and had some, pretty horrific experiences as well.
Yeah, now it's a federal crime if you touch the island.
Oh, yeah.
It's a federal crime because it's toxic and you can bring back diseases to the mainland. I keep saying mainland when it's Venice, but you know what I mean.
No, for sure.
It's toxic that could travel. And we just learned how fast something can travel. And it's the same with there, especially since travelers who go to Italy often will go to Greece and France as well, or Switzerland. They don't just stop there if you're doing a European trip.
Right.
Right. So I'll do the last 2.
Yeah, for sure.
This is also in Venice, and it's called the House of No Return. In Italian, it's called Ca Dario because of the owner of the person who built it, the architect. Now, neighbors refer to this house as the House of No Return, just due to the mysterious deaths that have happened to the ones who have occupied the home. Constructed in the 15th century, the real owner and architect, I should say the original, sorry, I was on Italian sites, so when they translated to English, it's all messed up. So the original owner and architect, Giovanni Dario, lost his daughter to suicide and his son to murder at the time that they occupied the home, that they lived at home. There were 2 further killings and suicides in Ca Dario. And the 13 consecutive owners of the home have all mysteriously reached their death. Nobody owns it now. The government owns it. It's
basically
and you can go and see it. Yeah.
Oh, you can. Okay.
Yeah. So l'ultimo, which means
a lot of people go to Italy now. You got places that you can go check out.
These are places, if you're interested in that stuff, and most people, when they tour Italy, they go to Venice. So that's why I thought hit these ones. Southern Italy, I can tell you from Rome down, no matter where you walk, you're going to find something haunted. Right. Because there was so much between the Greeks, the Arabs, the Africans that came over. There was so much that happened there, and the wars, the Lebanese. So there's a lot
Rome and
of
Egypt,
energy.
Antony and Cleopatra. Like
yes,
lots,
that was huge. That was huge.
Absolutely.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yes. So this church, far from the core of Rome, but has a similar name. It's called Sacra Cuore Suffragio, and that means Sacred Heart of Suffering.
Oof.
It is a single-room museum of purgatory souls. This is in Milan. So people who go to Milano because they want to shop for fashion, if you're into high fashion, Milano is the fashion capital of the world, along with Paris.
Right.
Okay. It applies to have recorded several occurrences of souls caught between hell and heaven, attempting to attract someone who's living for their petitions to assess them into paradise. That's somewhere we need to go. You can see proof of purgatory, such as pictures and trademarks when you go in. They actually let you go in there. But everyone who goes in there has an experience of being touched or spoken to, voices, the feelings, the creepy feelings and everything. And it is, I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, we see it perfectly. Look at that. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Wow. Isn't it gorgeous?
Yeah.
And it's just in the middle of the town. Like it's so old,
Right.
You're talking.
Well, everything
it looks like a miniature cathedral of Milan.
Yeah.
It looks like the miniature.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's
so beautiful. This is all north. So if you're going to Venice, you got Venice, Tuscany, Milan right after. So you can do those three.
I love it.
But you can Google search 10 most haunted places in Italy and it'll come up.
Right. There we go.
It's not just the Colosseum. It's not just the Colosseum. And they're letting you tour it again. So
but all
that's
these
opened
places,
up again.
Realistically speaking, all these places, even if you're going to historic places, take it from somebody who knows, because I have traveled extensively throughout my life. And, I wish, like, I had a phenomenal paranormal experience right in the Great Pyramid of Giza. Full on apparition. I'm down in the bowels of the Great Pyramid, and because back then you could just tip people and they would let you have access to places that nobody else had. So, I look up and I see this man. I come out this long corridor that had to go down on my belly. And I kind of popped up and I see this man there.
She's got more balls than I do.
I know.
She has a lot more courage because I'm claustrophobic. I couldn't do that.
But I love, ancient history and architecture.
Egypt's part of your blood.
This is going to, and this is going to happen like probably one time. So I'm down there. I come up and it was a long corridor and it just kind of went down on a slope like this. So I come out and I look up and there's a man standing there and I got the sense that he may have been a worker at some point. I didn't know, but about like 3 years later, they had discovered an entire village at the base of the pyramid where these people actually had tallies, which showed they were paid to work. They weren't slaves, but this guy was standing there. And I, me being me, without having the tact that I have today, when I'm speaking to spirit people, I said, "You're dead. You know that?" And he goes, "You're dead." And I thought about it and I went, maybe.
We really don't know.
Well, we don't know.
We really don't know.
It's a dimensional thing, right?
Yeah.
So I just looked at him and I just went, okay. Turned around and climbed back up through this crazy tunnel and thought to myself, holy crud, that was an experience. But I wasn't into the paranormal then. So I did not appreciate it for what it was. I mean, I wasn't professionally doing this. I didn't start doing this till probably, like 10 years later. It just
after
wasn't.
that, yeah.
Oh, heck yeah. I mean, this was pre-children, being married.
Something happens and you just,
Yeah.
And
I didn't appreciate it for what it was. And exactly, Tamara, to them, we probably are. It was grounded.
I think so.
Yeah.
Now, our favorite saint, Pio, he is, if you're going to Italy, if you go down to the south, this is the last time I'll say this, because this one he was known for the last stigmata. He passed away, I believe it was 1968. Oh my God, my daughter's birthday. I never knew that.
Wow.
I never knew it was September 26th.
Was that your daughter's birthday? He died
and
on your
I've had
birthday?
him sleeping with her for it'll be 26 years. Wow. Yeah, I didn't know that. Okay. Sometimes you just, you Google something and it shocks the crap out of you.
Synchronicities, yeah.
So he's from San Giovanni Rotondo, down and around the region of Molise in Italy, which is southern. It's around the boot.
Mm-hmm.
And his casket is glass. You can see him, and you can see that he has not changed very much at all. But there are no scars of, after he passed away, there were no scars of the stigmata at all. Right. They all closed.
Disappeared.
Yeah, they disappeared. Now, if you think I'm lying about this or I'm exaggerating, there are videos on YouTube that you can search and you will see him bandaged and bleeding, doing mass, so much so that the Vatican sent inspectors and pulled him off the pulpit so he wasn't doing mass, because they didn't even believe him till they spent time with him. He was losing 4 to 8 liters of blood a day.
Wow.
So anyways, if you are into the holy stuff, between Italy and France, you will find many churches that have skulls and catacombs that are openly visible, buried saints, warriors that fought for the church. You will see them in both countries, visibly in the churches. And I believe every church between France and Italy is haunted.
Right.
These cathedrals have been around since the 15th and 14th centuries, so they are extremely old. But the catacombs of Paris, same thing, right? Underground.
London, they all have them. The Hellfire Caves. There's another one.
Yes.
Here's one of my favorite, and I would love to. I know a friend of mine had, invited me over many times to come and visit, and the Tower of London. Right, built by William the Conqueror in 1078.
Amazing.
12 years after he conquered the area in 1066. And it basically goes on with stories, like so many haunted stories. It still contains the crown jewels of the monarchy.
Yes.
Estimated that about 400 people were tortured and executed there. In 1480, I think 1483, 2 young princes were murdered and hidden there. And of course, now we know it's because of King Richard, who also went missing. Those were the nephews, and they have found them. But they show these shadowy figures who are still there holding hands, and they drift from room to room and melt into the walls. And then Catherine Howard, this is a story that to me is just unbelievable. And Anne Boleyn. Catherine Howard, the wife of Henry VIII, is said to be there. Anne Boleyn, also wife of Henry VIII, was imprisoned and beheaded there.
Yes.
In 1536.
In the garden.
She's often spotted in many different areas of the tower. Her headless torso paces frequently spotted in the chapel of St. Peter, where she was buried. In 1876, so this is like an old haunting, a soldier on duty heard commotion in the chapel. He pressed his face to the glass. God, guys, just imagine to see something like this. He saw a procession of ghostly lords and ladies, knights in armor, and Anne Boleyn.
It makes sense. Think of the trauma they suffered walking their former queen to have her head axed.
I know.
As her father ran away. Her brother was killed before her, and then her. All because he just wanted to get rid of her.
I know.
She wasn't producing a male heir. Well, who knew that it was he who wasn't producing the male heir?
It was him.
Imagine how it would have fallen if they knew.
Yeah, I know.
I think that would be a fantastic place to visit.
Well, I think there's a lot of fantastic places out there.
Yeah, Queen Catherine, I believe, the trauma being so young and
I can't even imagine. But bear and lions, that's interesting.
That is interesting. I wonder if it's because of all the hunting they did. Lions, where would they get the lions? But you know what? Think about it. You said it houses the crown jewels, right? Those crown jewels are gifts from all over the world. Some which have been worn by other monarchs, and that could just bring some attachments with it. I mean, the big stone that they're fighting over is from India. There's lions and tigers there.
Yeah.
Bears, okay, that can come from anywhere there.
Right.
But think about it. Lions, I mean, they have diamonds from Africa in their tiaras and their crowns.
Mm-hmm.
Anything could be attached.
It's all craziness. I mean, people don't factor in haunted items.
Thank you, Tamara. The tower was a zoo for King Henry VIII. That I didn't know.
There you go. There you go.
Here I am making it all paranormal.
So that's just, well, why not? That's what the show's about. But I think it's really fascinating for sure, you know. So let's talk about just talk about
the ABBA concert.
Let's talk about places like on this side of the world. Pearl Harbor.
Oh,
Pearl Harbor is a big one, and it goes back a really long time, and obviously, and
it's heavy with me. Pearl Harbor,
yeah, suffered devastating losses December 7th, 1941, when Japan attacked. Thousands of people lost their lives. Highcombe Air Force Base, if I'm saying that properly, sits next to the harbor. It was also attacked. USS Arizona was also attacked.
Nurses and doctors were killed.
And the haunted reports are the oldest ghost associated with the area is that of a man named Charlie, and nobody is actually sure of who he is. At the base, there are reports of strange sounds, apparitions of civilians, visitors, soldiers, and other souls. Security forces allegedly do not like to walk the grounds at night because of all the paranormal activity. People report feelings of tremendous sadness, obviously, extreme pain, a lot of anxiety. They experience feelings of being incredibly frightened for no apparent reason. Over at the airstrip, people report a sense of panic. Again, would make sense. Strange glowing mist that floats about. On the USS Arizona, remember the bodies of her crew, they're still there within the sunken walls. Okay, so that's a grave site. It's said to be the most haunted spot in the area. People have seen apparitions of soldiers on the dock over the vessel. Another ghost is said to wander the deck when the tide is low. Then when we get over to Ford Island, to this day, residents report phantom voices and footsteps in their homes, as well as objects moving, electronics turning themselves on and off, dark shadows walking around only to vanish when approached. That's in the area that surrounds all of that.
Because that wasn't there then. There was nothing but military bases, air bases, Navy, and a hospital for veterans. That's all that was there at the time when they got hit. And that was a hell of a sneak attack.
I know. It's crazy.
You're just going about your day. Nurses and doctors are being killed as they're walking. If it wasn't such a long flight, I would love to. That's one of the places that I would love to visit for respect.
Right. Well,
that changed the course of history.
And you know what? It did.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, sadly, I don't like to attach conspiracy to anything, but unfortunately, there's quite a bit.
Yes.
That is attached to that, which is sad, like everything else. But, there's a lot of amazing places. Let's talk about Gettysburg. I've had the privilege of being there a couple of times. Some people dig it, some people don't, but there seems to be a really huge array of people who are so interested in this location. And because there's a lot of places during the Civil War. And Gettysburg really gets a lot of huge battle fought there. But you go to Virginia, you go to the southern states, you'll find many battlefields.
It's a hop, skip, and a jump from the White House too. So that's war upon war walking through there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Gettysburg, July of 1863. Apparently, this was this battle loaded with spirits. And I've been to some of these places. The Jenny Wade House. If you guys Google that, it's a fascinating little house. And she was, I guess, the heroine of, the Civil War in Gettysburg, because she had a sister who was in labor and she remained behind with her sister. And she was killed in the most obscure way because she had opened a door. She was just leaning down to put something in the oven. When she went up, something came through the door. Arsenal, came through the door and killed her. It's just unreal. And it's a fascinating structure as well. But the site is the only civilian death in the Battle of Gettysburg. She stayed behind to care for her sister, who had just given birth, and could not travel at the time. She was taking bread out of the oven, and as she bent down, she was struck by artillery from behind, which went through the door, and that door is still there. Yeah. You can actually see it, and the bullet hole is still there. Like nothing has really changed. They didn't change anything in there. The only thing that may be different is floorboards that would have been removed that were bloodstained, that are under glass to see. There's, you can't really go and touch it, right? But there's just like the Cashtown Inn. There's another one. The story of the ghost of a woman dancing in the ballroom. And researchers believe that the Union soldiers, James Culbertson of Company K of the Pennsylvania Reserve, still roams the hall of that inn. So, but I mean, for anybody who's really interested, see, there you go. This would be a really good place to go because there are soldiers that are seen everywhere. And there's so many videos and photographs that have been captured there for years now, not just, recent,
Yes, I said a hop, skip, and a jump. Southern connection. I think a lot of Canadians say that, though.
Yeah.
Don't we? hop, skip, and a jump.
Or things like Bob's your uncle. Just silly little things.
Yeah.
We speak of the Brits.
I think we say a lot of that. Yeah. And there you go. And exactly. Bob's your uncle.
Yeah. Bob's your uncle. That was Jenny Wade. And she was a lady, a woman.
So sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear everybody that's been to Gettysburg that has told me about it, and I'm so jealous because I really want a Gettysburg burger.
Yeah.
But
I know.
Really want one. I'm always jealous because they say it's like you're not even looking for it, and it happens. And I'm like, really, I want it to happen.
It does.
Me. That's a place that I would love to walk through and pay my respects and say thank you. And I think there's a combination of residual and intellectual haunting there. I don't think it's just one. I believe that there's both.
But let me present this, and people, you guys can all chime in. Amelia, let me know what you think there also. But with the amount of people that go to some of these places, and we'll use Gettysburg as an example, just because we're talking about it, and people researching and people wanting so desperate. I guess I'm getting to the mindset thing. Do you think that, are we as the people who are investigating, are we creating some of that, or are we holding some of that back? And some of us, I mean, let's face it, too, as seasoned researchers, we go from location to location to location. So we bring a lot of that baggage with us.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, what's everybody's thoughts on that?
I think it's a combination, like you said.
Yeah. I thought that as well. And I also think that because I did one of these tours, and don't get me wrong, they're fantastic tours. They have tours everywhere, and they take you can't go on the battlefield at night. They don't let you do that. But you can do tours that take you along the edges of the battlefield. And
they won't let you go at night?
Well, not on the battlefields.
That's not fair.
You can get around it. There are places that you can, and you can stay at some of the old buildings that are now inns that you can stay and you can overlook it. But, I find that's the tour I was on, at least, it was like, oh, we have a medium here. We have a young guy who's stuck here and everybody's going to help bring him on. Meanwhile, I'm there with like Peg and Cassie. I'm there with 7 of my closest friends and who all mediums. And they're all sitting there going,
I was going to say Michelle travels with medium. She is a medium. So
yeah. Well,
it's a different experience.
My friends are, so you hear certain things and you're like, and the point I'm going with it is not to cause any discredit. Like the history part of everything is phenomenal. They do a really good job. They bring equipment, things like that, but I don't think they need the plants, but it's to include people. Okay. I get it. But I think it feeds into some of it also. So maybe that's the idea, So I don't know.
I think so.
Well,
I
thanks,
think a
Chris.
lot of that happens. I saw that at Lizzie Borden's house. I was picking up stuff that
There's
didn't
another
belong in
haunted
that.
place. So you talk about that.
No, well, I was picking up spirits that shouldn't be there.
Right.
People from our time, our lifetime.
Right.
So it was like constant here, let me help you get into the light kind of thing.
Right.
Because you're not supposed to be here. And this isn't a good place to be because investigators bring Ouija boards in here and they bring communication tools and stuff to speak with the other side. And I don't want anyone getting stuck there.
Right.
So I'm that person that's going to move you, and I feel like a lot of people.
Controversy also.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
Too bad for them.
So I know, right? So what's the thought on that? No, because we're talking about, I'm glad you made mention of that. So let's stop there for a second and talk about that. So some of these places you go to, they're businesses. Okay, these are businesses, and some of that money goes towards the maintenance of some of these buildings because they're very expensive to upkeep and maintain. And so I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm just kind of
I know you are, because we've had this conversation for years.
We have. So I don't know, when you see a soul who's lost or maybe who wants to move on and just for whatever reason can't or won't move on, what do you do?
And move them.
Bing,
nudge,
bing, bing, bing,
nudge very forcefully nudge. I wasn't referring to Lizzie Borden or anything like that. There's a lot of residual activity at the Lizzie Borden house. Don't kid yourself.
Right.
But no, I'm talking about people who maybe came in with a family member who was doing the tour and they were attached to them and all of a sudden got stuck there. Those people I'm going to move. But what Michelle and I have experienced through our years of work together is that an ascended spirit, once ascended, can come back.
Absolutely.
But why let them stay there?
Absolutely.
It has to be their choice. If I didn't move a child, the one time I didn't because I didn't know. But once, you told me and
it was just funny because she'd be throwing things at Amelia. It's like, oh, she's a bit craggy today.
I never paid attention. I never paid attention to how she looked. I had to practice that because you remember the work I did was mostly, remote viewing, which I didn't know I was doing. Right. And it was with crime. So they're all stuck.
Right.
But once Elizabeth, she comes and goes once in a while still. She's been here a few times,
stuck,
but she's not forced to be here.
Exactly.
With her 400 and something odd year old chair.
Yeah.
But if it was my kid, I would want someone to help my child.
I agree.
You don't want them in the dark because things come to them in the dark. Things occupy them. Things feed off of them. Just think about that. Would you walk by a helpless child? Now,
I think any spirit, it would be really hard.
It's very hard. But when I walked into Lizzie Borden's house and I had a few people there who passed away, from 89 in the 90s, I just went, let's go. Because they never asked to be there. They were just there because someone walked in who happened to have them with them, and then they get stuck behind because they think, oh, wow, look at all these other spirits. And they don't understand what's going on. Some of them might even think they're going to heaven.
Right.
I think they're in some sort of waiting room. Oh, yeah. I wonder, Lizzie Borden houses investigated, they draw spirits.
Exactly what you're saying.
Some are not intentional, but let me tell you something. When they had the investigations, those were all intentional. You got to watch what you're asking for. Right. Be careful for what you wish for, because this was a savage murder. Double murder, savage. The stuff that happened to her before, was tremendously traumatic and disgusting. What she went through, all that trauma, the abuse, that all stays. And I could tell you what room it happened in the minute I got up the stairs. I'm like, that's not a bathroom. This was almost like an attic. And he's like, yes, like, and you can see that when you see that, you want to help them all go over.
You do.
You know?
It's really difficult. And I understand, people have their businesses and this is the new thing. But what happens when the fad is over? Or what happens when you just can't go out and do anything anymore? What do you do at that point?
Yeah. If you don't want your spirits in your location to go bye-bye, don't invite me.
Right.
Because I'm not saying it with, saying that I'm not judging you. I'm just saying that I personally cannot live with it.
Right.
I can't be who I am and what I do, go into a place and not help someone get out of a dark place. To me, they're not dead.
Right.
They're still living, and they deserve.
They're just without the body. It's just
they deserve a better life, and it should be their choice if they want to be there to help you or not. And if you're good to those spirits, maybe they will come back and help you. But if you're nasty to them,
right. Well, we're proof, Wayne and I, of having spirits that have been more than happy to be there, and I've done events at many locations where spirits are grounded, and and others not, and offer to help the grounded ones, and the ones that aren't actually help them a lot, and they're very interactive. Did you want to get this?
Yeah, I'm going to read it from the big print. Kathy. Hi, Kathy. Welcome. Roger Garza, who is a host on our show as well, told me one time a young man was attached to me and was unsure of where to go. I kept telling him to go into the light. The next time I talked to Roger, he told me the young man was gone. Good for you.
Yeah.
You did the right thing, in my opinion.
Roger and Faye Garza are Latino Psychic Visions, which are on Wednesdays at 5 Eastern. And this mug's for you Saturday mornings, 11:30 Eastern.
Yeah.
Check them out.
And he just spits out those readings, man, when you watch him. Yeah. Chris Phoenix says our spirits are eternal and might be caught up in the physical for a minute, but eventually we go into the eternal. Absolutely. And we might come back to the physical again and again. LOL. We be crazy that way. Yes, we be.
Some of us more than others. So
yeah. And our third host, Tamara, is here. Hello, Tamara. Always move spirits on when you can't send prayers to the angels and to help them, and they will. That is true. If you don't know what to do, just ask for the light to come in and surround them and help them over. And that's all you can do. Visualize it. Visualize the light taking them over into a better place or another dimension, depending on your beliefs. And it's important. Think about it. Would you want to be working once you pass away and your spirit's wandering? Would you want to be working for someone else to make a ton of money? I think I'd haunt them.
Oh, I'm sure it does. It happens. I'm sure,
Yeah.
So there's always a way. But as long as there's a need and an interest, you'll always find places. And sometimes it's like people they're just not versed in how to do it. They just stay at, like I personally will always stay at a location that is haunted and preferably old. I love staying at very old structures. When I'm in Europe, especially, like I always do my best to stay at really historic locations that are 400, 500, 600 years old, 1,000 years old.
Do they leave mints on your pillow and do turn down service?
Oh, they do amazing things there for sure. But you get the bonus of the ghosts, so it's a lot of fun. And sometimes you do get the bonus of them if they come around. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But it's not an investigation or investigative type of place. You just go in. I've slept, like when I was in Romania, it was quite funny, because Melissa, Adriana, and I were there, and Adriana, had her friend at the time. So they were staying in one room, and Melissa and I were in another room. And Melissa sleeps like a dang rock. A freight train could go right smack beside her. That girl will not even budge. So we're at the base. You clear your
throat. I'm going to bounce up.
We're at the base of Bran Castle, pretty much. We're not very far from it. We're staying in a villa.
Beautiful.
And if Adrienne is still in chat, I'm sure she'll chime in. But so it's like 7:00 in the morning, extremely ungodly. And we're in a villa. And I hear really loud in my ear, Michelle.
What time?
Like 7 a.m.
That's like when I go to bed.
And I hear a Michelle. I was like, I snap up, because I'm like, Melissa, what are you doing?
Why are you talking to me?
I know. She is like out freaking cold. And I'm like, all right. I roll over and I go back to bed. So of course, then when we get up, like at 10, like, did you just let me talk in your sleep or something? She goes, no, I'm cold. I don't remember anything. I was like, So anyway, but things happen like that happen to me a lot, actually, when I travel, which makes me it's a bit unnerving. How does everybody knows my name?
That's a big room if the three of you can share the room.
Well, me, her, and the spirit.
Oh, okay. I thought Adriana
they were in another.
Adriana was in there too.
Oh, they are very big rooms over there. No, they were totally in another room. It was just Melissa and I, and there were two beds. So Melissa and I were bunkies throughout the whole trip. Which brings us next to,
if Michelle and I share a room, we'll never get out of the room because we both like to sleep.
We do.
Yeah, we'll never. But it'll be lunchtime. Like, where's coffee?
I love, I love, getting into like haunted forests and things like that. I just love that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm, we did go to the Hoya Baciu Forest, and it is again the most haunted forest in the world.
Yeah, it's above
it's above the suicide forest.
Yes.
It's above the Black Forest.
I can't remember what it's called. Yeah.
We went to all kinds of haunted places, and we went to all the castles, and we did all of that. But of course, the pièce de résistance for me was haunted forests. And they should be thankful that I didn't make them spend the night. Because I said, if we ever went back, I said, oh, look, somebody had a tent here. What a wonderful idea. We'll tent next time. Didn't go over well. Anyway, so we go up there.
It's the bathroom thing. Otherwise, I could stay there because I wouldn't sleep. I would
get sucked into a vortex. Gone.
Yeah, but I wouldn't sleep.
But we didn't. We didn't sleep. Yeah. Well, we did. I won't say we didn't. I had a nap. When we first got in there, it was probably about like 2 o'clock. I don't know, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I had a little nap just to try to get a feel for what was going on. And it was always funny because everybody said, oh, you're going to the haunted forest on the night of the supermoon. And I'm like, do you want to get all this other energy? I'm like, no, I actually just want to find my way out.
Yeah, you want to have some kind of light because you know that your batteries are going to be sucked to nothing.
Everything got sucked to nothing. And but it lit up the whole circle. It was just so bright. It was amazing. We experienced so many things that night. And, at the end of it all, we were left with one iPhone 4 at the time. That was pretty current, just saying. And Melissa had that. And then we had a little Hack Shack, which was just like a little, like the SP7 ghost boxes that was going, and all kinds of stuff was coming out and talking. And oh my God, I could be here for, the next 20 minutes talking about the story. And I've said it many times, so I'm not going to say the whole thing again.
But tell them about what happened to the girls though.
See?
Yeah.
So
beware.
I'm going to say, out of everything that happened in the forest that night, okay, because it was a lot that happened in the forest that night, we ended up at going to our hotel that night, state-of-the-art hotel, and we were miles away from the forest at that point. And there were things, I'll back up 1 minute. The only way to get power in the room is to take your key card, put it in a slot in the wall.
You need to know that. Yes. Before the story. Yes.
And all the power turned on. Without that, there's zero power in that room. When I say state of the art, it's state of the art. So that we're sitting there. Melissa and I we're just, hanging out, and Adriana's upstairs. And all of a sudden, like, the phone's just ringing and ringing. We're just like, nobody knows we're here. Pick it up. Nobody's there. Adriana ended up calling afterwards going, what the hell shit's going on up here? And I was just like, yeah, down here too. So I was just happy to have Wi-Fi. So I'm on my phone going, oh my God, I got freaking Wi-Fi. And Melissa's just like, her phone keeps going and chirping. She's holding it. She goes, do you see what's going on right now? And I'm going, okay, back to my Wi-Fi. I didn't even think about it really, because I'm just so used to having stuff happen to me. It was, I didn't think twice about it. So she ended up setting up the video camera, and all night there was just pacing, and the phone was ringing. Things are happening. it was a bit of a long night, but we slept. We were okay. When we went home, they were followed. I didn't have any experiences. They were having experiences between them. Now, not that all of Romania isn't bloody haunted. Pretty darn sure it
Oh
is.
yeah, it's just as old
But
as the rest of Europe. Yeah.
oh, you're doing the whole like Vlad Dracul freaking tour. I mean, you're hitting
The
historic,
Vikings,
all of it,
yeah.
all
Yeah.
of it. I mean, the top of Huayabatu has got like cultures going back 16,000 years. And there was tons of stuff. But it goes to show, like, there was a lot of stuff that went on after the fact. Things can follow you back. And they did. Like, they would be messaging saying, oh my God, blah, blah, blah. Is this happening to you? I'm like, no, no. I didn't yip off in the forest. Somebody yipped off in the forest. Anyway, that's an inside thing, but it happened.
That's you need to know that
Yeah.
this can happen. Now, I just want to mention Chris said Waverly Hills.
Mhm.
I've talked about this before because the Booth brothers did a whole documentary on Waverly Hills, which was so touching because they interviewed people who are still alive after working there, and they told the story of the people who lived at Waverly Hills. They told their stories. I have a lot of artifacts from Waverly Hills. I have medicine bottles, glass IV bottles with the glass inside of it. I have syringes that look like something out of a 1960s sci-fi film. And what you can't see, because I have to better my lighting, is my entire office has portraits and amazingly taken photos that Chris St. Booth took that I bought at auction around my office. So that is definitely a place that I want to come to. And no, you're not that gay. I would let you do my hair though, because I get my nails done. But he said I'm so gay that we would do each other's nails. So I have a lot of gay friends, and like they know not to touch my nails, but you can braid my hair, and I'll do yours. But anyways, I make a great friend. my gay friends love me.
We're gonna find. We're gonna go to another spot. Hold on. We're gonna talk about. Again, this is a place you could go for free. Some of these places we're mentioning, guys, they're free. You want to go wander around like Gettysburg, for instance, or some of these countries you can go to. I mean, there's not too many places you couldn't
just get
go
a burger if you go to Gettysburg. If you're a meat lover, like get a burger. Everybody talks about them like they're eating.
They're very good.
Yeah. You had one?
Yes.
Well, okay. Now we need to go back because it's not fair because I didn't.
But let's talk about Little Bighorn, Custer's Last Stand. Yes. Now, this was the indigenous fight for their freedom. Last Stand Hill. So none of these troops under Custer's command survived the fight. And he had 5 companies that rode in with him. And
horrific.
It was horrific. The Last Stand. There was the North Cheyenne, the Arapaho, the Lakotas. They just overwhelmed the troops. Now, Crow oral history claims that Custer may have been seriously wounded earlier in a battle with wounds in the arms, chest, and temple. Several Indian accounts reported men in the 7th Cavalry committing suicide prior to the failed assault by the warriors, and that Custer himself committed suicide. So this has been proposed by scholars, given the nature of the head wound to which he had to his left temple. So, his body wasn't mutilated, as most of the others were. So if there was something, they didn't mutilate him. But the ghostly reports there are as follows. Reports of the battlefield being haunted began to surface in the 1940s. In August of 76, 100 years after the battle, visitors reported sudden drops in temperature while standing on what is now called Custer Hill, where his body was found following the battle. Many visitors have reported hearing murmuring sounds. Employees and visitors have claimed, blah, blah, blah.
Thursday, folks. Thursday.
to have seen mounted warriors near the site and vanish when approached. Buildings on the site erected by the Park Service for the park rangers have reported strange locking and unlocking sounds of doors being locked and unlocked. lights being turned on and off when the building is occupied. One employee saw an apparition in the visitor center walk through a locked storage room, and encounters and reports seem to be increasing. And in recent years, visitors claim to feel strange tugs at their limbs when no one is around and being pulled down to the ground. So, what's that all about?
Do you think it's residual, or do you think it's intellectual? Intelligent, sorry, not intellectual. I need coffee. An intelligent haunting.
I don't like my Wi-Fi, just saying, it freezes me. No, I think it's a bit of everything. I mean, if something's tugging at you, yes, I believe
that's an
that
intelligent haunting.
That is. Yeah. But all of the phantom sounds that you hear, I think that is definitely that could obviously definitely residual for sure. Okay.
Kathy Henley Little, a cousin of my grandmother, died at Little Bighorn. Captain Meyer Kioff. His horse was the only thing alive. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Wow.
I'm so sorry for your loss.
Yeah. Wow.
That is awful.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That whenever it comes up, on television, or they're covering it, or online, I react to that battle like this Pearl Harbor, like the sinking of Titanic, like the sinking of Edmund Fitzgerald. I break out into tears. Like I just can't, as an empath, I can't handle that kind of carnage. And
well, see, I'd like to ask Kathy just on that level. Okay. But as a family member, Kathy, as a family member of someone who died in this battle, we'll use this one as an example. How does it make you feel when to think that people are going and, because I mean, I've got William the Conqueror, for example, and that's a battlefield, Battle of Hastings, and many battlefields. But how does it make you feel that people are going around and, it's kind of, I mean, these are still people and their families, and then now we have descendants and think, well, it's long enough in the past that we should be able to, you're going to do it. But that would make me feel sadder because it's been so long.
It can't be forgotten. Things like that can't be forgotten. We need to constantly be reminded so it doesn't happen again. That's the issue with nowadays and wanting to cancel everything. Sometimes you need that reminder.
Yeah, that's a big one for sure.
And I believe any of these wars could happen again. I really do. Look at the riot on Capitol Hill, and we won't go into the politics of it, but look what a person can do by speaking. We don't even have to go back to the devil himself. With, but I'm not talking about the person who was in office. I'm saying we don't have to go back in time to someone who controlled a lot of people's thoughts, and there was a genocide. These things can still happen.
Right.
And
I agree.
Perhaps much easier because of the length that they can reach people via the internet. So I believe that these statues and these stories have to continually be taught in school as a reminder of what can happen and how a human can create so much.
Yeah, I agree
devastation.
With you. I agree with you. I think we need to really take.
She's asking you, do you mean visiting? I feel that they are honoring the site.
Yes.
Okay.
Visiting, yes, absolutely. But what about ghost researchers? Do you think that's the same and the same idea? And again, we're kind of going back to, a lot of places that there seems to be something that they do to promote. And I get it. It's in a way, it's providing a safe and regulated location for you to come in and have that experience. But from a family point of view, How do you feel about that?
Yeah.
So you just, chime in anytime, of course. So.
Absolutely. And Tamara says, I agree. Rewriting history is a dangerous thing because we are destined to repeat history. That's absolutely written in history books as well.
Yeah.
And you also remember when there are statues and groups of people have been killed because of their race, their ethnicity, or whatever it may be.
Right.
It's also destructive to remove it because it's almost like we're going to forget that happened and move on. And you're almost denying their ability to grieve and discuss it and keep the memory alive of their loved ones. That's a touchy subject. I understand that. I'm giving my personal opinion on it. Yeah. I think it's a bad idea when you try to cover up history. It's just a bad idea. And stop going after books that have certain sayings. Some of those books that they're going after were written in the 1700s, for Pete's sake. Don't take anything out of context. Have respect for things that happen. Respect people whose people have suffered.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get into, we're going to actually, before we keep going, we're going to play a couple of other podcast awards, and then Amelia can do our sponsor ID. Absolutely. So let's go over with UFO Undercover, because you heard ours, of course, at the beginning of the show first. Anyway, here we go. We were first. Yeah. Here we go.
All right, everybody. It's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcast. Yes, it is that time of year again. There's a show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards. UFO Undercover, in the category of entertainment. UFO Undercover brings you some of the most revealing and current research that is being done with respect to alien abductions and contact. Host Joe Montaldo has been an abduction researcher for over 35 years and is uniquely qualified to bring you live interviews with some of the most well-known researchers in ufology. Go to podcastawards.com to nominate UFO Undercover in the category of entertainment. That's podcastawards.com, and please take a moment and get out and vote now.
Who found his picture?
One more.
Hey there. It's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcasts. There's an amazing show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards. The News on the Flip Side, in the category of politics and news. News on the Flip Side is a much different news and political program which is not deemed as opinion news. Listen as Joe Montaldo brings to you just the facts from trusted sources which will allow you, the people, to make up your own minds on the various stories being reported on. Go to podcastawards.com to nominate News on the Flip Side in the category of politics and news. That's podcastawards.com, and please take a moment and do it now.
You're up.
I'm going to talk to Joe myself after the show about the face tuning. But anyways,
All right.
I didn't even recognize that gentleman. You are listening to The Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano, coming to you live from the gorgeous city of New Orleans on 105.3. They're going to hang me if I ever get there. And 107.7 FM radio. We are live and archived on Roku. So if you're joining us or you're watching us on Roku, thank you for joining us. And please share us with your friends. We don't have a guest tonight. We're just having a huge and incredible discussion on haunted destinations. If you're looking forward to doing something abroad, this is the show you want to listen to, because our chat room is chiming in as well on some of the places, commenting and giving ideas. So if you are just tuning in, no worry, you can stream our archives on any platform that you normally use. Just don't forget to share us with your friends. Common thing that comes out of my mouth, right? We want to give a super duper huge thank you to the amazing people at Folgers Coffee for continually sponsoring our show and giving us another year. Thank you, soldiers. Folgers. We're talking about soldiers
who drank Folgers, huh?
I had to look into that one. How did that slip come out?
Yeah, that worked out pretty good. It's a good rhyme, Amelia.
I'm starting to wonder if something's tapping my shoulder. A huge thank you for our intro. And sometimes when we get to play the outro, seriously, it's fabulous. To Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, Justin Snicker, award-winning composer and musician. You can find his music on Amazon and Bandcamp, and check him out on Facebook and Instagram because he's dropping clips of his music all the time, so you can pre-listen before you buy. And also Steve McGinnis for doing our banner, his artwork. How do they get in touch with him if they want to?
Facebook
Michelle?
or Instagram.
There we go.
Yeah.
Steve McGinnis, if you're looking to do something professional, he's your artist.
There we go.
Now, if you're watching us on Facebook or you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to hit subscribe, like, and share. Thank you so much. Back to Michelle.
See, that was easy. Why do I feel like I'm in a freaking newscast?
Because I say back to Michelle. It's so that I know that I've finished it and you hear me. But soldiers, I've got it in my heart now. See, with the soldiers.
I know.
Like, share, and subscribe. Yes, Tamara.
Okay, so back to Kathy's answer to my question about how she feels about it.
Yeah. Kathy says, being empathic myself, I feel that it's something that should be done by expert investigators, not novices. So seasoned investigators, ones that will have respect for the deceased. I agree.
I agree with you on that as well. I've done shows.
We love you, Chris.
In the past where we were asked to get information via the history. And I got approached years after that to create a show, which I do. I do a lot of behind the scenes stuff. I do create content, and I do help assist for creative content and things like that, whether it's show names or whether it's just content, whether it's just bringing people together for stories. And I was asked if I could put together any show, what would I do? And the one that stood out the most for me that I agreed to is if you could do any series and have your own show, what would it be? Because I've turned down a lot of series because it just, to me, everything's been done. And if it has a silly title besides that, it's like, no. So anyway, one basically was to go to a historical location where it was hard to get answers. So example, we did a sizzle reel in Niagara Falls. A sizzle is where you do a very short first episode, and that's what goes to the production people.
Yeah, like paraphrase.
Exactly. Yeah. So the sizzle reel consisted of communicating with a spirit, which we did with technology. And one of this individual, and this was not researched. We just basically popped out a name, who had gone over the falls. He was one of the first people to go over the falls. Well, we know the person went over the falls, and they didn't find much of him because he went ahead and he thought, to stabilize the barrel, I'm going to put an anvil in it and sit on it and hold on to the top. Okay. So we wanted to know what happened inside. What did you go through? So this spirit spoke, came through the device and told us everything that went on. But he's basically started off by saying, they told me not to go. My friends told me I shouldn't do this. One of those friends, by the way, was another man who had gone over the falls successfully, and a woman also who went over the falls successfully. All they found of this guy was his forearm. That's all that's buried. It was like hamburger meat because he was inside with an anvil. You can imagine when he went over. So essentially, he told us what he was feeling at that moment and exactly what happened. That's the kind of thing we did. I also included a location, Mount Everest. Everybody wanted to know, did Mallory make it to the top or not? Nobody knows because he didn't make it down. And where he was found, he could have been descending or he could have been ascending. These are the type of things that I think would be of interest. The hidden history, the stuff that we don't have answers to, but everybody asks about. Of course, we had Canada, England, everybody wanted this. And then it went to a certain large network south of the border. And it ended up on another popular show spinoff. So I thought, well, it was great enough to yank. All right, well, I guess it was a good enough idea for someone to just and use it. So, but you know what? That's good.
Blowing kisses to Chris. Yeah.
Right, this is part of what I do. I also consult and I also create.
It was heartbreaking
behind the scenes, right? So that's it.
It was heartbreaking because you talked about it to me. That was before it went somewhere else. Didn't see that happening, but it does.
Oh, it happens all the time. And I was dealing with a production company who produced large motion pictures on Netflix.
Yeah,
and
you
all
didn't
of
think
these
it would do that.
But you know what? I laughed about it afterwards because there was two though. I talked to you about a different one.
Yeah, that one was, I can't believe where it ended up. And it's still on.
No. This was a different one. This is a different one that I approached you about out of New York City. The one that we did a sizzle for was an entirely different.
No, I know it's completely different. But one of them ended up with one major host.
Oh yeah, that's the first.
That's how good the concept was.
That's the first one. Well, because I know what I'm doing. I know how to put together a show, and I did just that. I gave enough locations to do like 12 to 15 different spaces or locations. But that's the point I'm trying to make in all of it, is that I think really good concept would be, don't we have better questions to ask historical spirits, or ask, when you meet soldiers, what were you going through? Do you want to go home? Are you tired? Like, you got to be tired.
Did you know you were going to die?
Well, there's a lot of things, and a lot of research do exactly that.
Because even people who are alive, like my uncle, who was, he was kept prisoner by the Nazis for over 3 months.
Wow,
does not talk about
right
it.
There.
Does not talk about it. My friend Denise, her dad was in prison, never spoke of it.
Right. See?
I think you'd get more information out of a spirit than you will out of somebody who lived through it. They do not want to go back there.
No, for sure. But this is what I'm saying. Like, there are places like this. And I'll say, Little Bighorn, because we're speaking with Kathy. Like, wouldn't it be fascinating to know? I mean, it happened. It's history. It can't be changed. But to me, it would be so interesting to know what these people were all going through. I know this is what a lot of researchers do. This is what a lot of battlefield research and things like
There's
that.
There's a lot of integrity here with you.
Well,
I wouldn't do another show unless it was you.
Yeah, but I helped put that one together, though. I know. I gave content for that one.
That's why I did it.
I filled like
she didn't ask.
She
said, "I need you to send a video to this producer."
I know, because they asked
I'm just
me,
saying, if you were in charge,
they wanted somebody that I recommended, and it was. Just
I know. Thank you. I wouldn't do something unless it was completely different, and it would have to have you producing and writing. All these formulas. Every show you turn on is the exact same show.
But that's the idea. They follow formulas, and every now and then somebody gets brave and goes outside the box.
Yeah. Well, Grey's Anatomy, medical show, first one to go outside of the box. They're still running.
Yeah.
They're still running, and they're going outside of the box again. They're removing the major character.
Yeah.
You have to do things like that to have endurance.
So just remember, guys, like when you are traveling around and you're going to some of these places, I was obviously be respectful and be creative in being respectful. When I would teach people how to do EVPs, which is electronic voice phenomena, it's doing voice recordings, spirit voices or sounds, disembodied sounds. I would always, because you don't always have the luxury of knowing where you are. But, you don't know the history. But if you know the history, take a good look around and look at the space. If it's a historic place or a battlefield, ask intelligent questions. I don't understand people, it's like, is there anybody here? If somebody's staring at you because they don't think they're dead, they're kind of looking at you like you're a Fruit Loop. They're kind of going, well, I don't know. I'm right here. What do you think? So you may not get the type of dialogue that you're hoping to get. You might want to say something like, may I have your name? Make the assumption that there's someone there if you can't see them. Do you know your name? Or may I please have your name? Do you know what year it is? Just ask questions because if you were asking me questions, you said, is there anybody here? And I'm looking at you. Oh, how do you feel now? Yes, I am here. Smack upside the noggin, but I'm kidding. Well, maybe not.
I'd like to.
How many times you ask me?
I'd like to first say, walking in, I hope it's okay.
Yes.
That I am here.
Yeah.
I hope that it's okay to talk to you, and if it's not, that's okay too. Just let me know. I would want to reassure them that I'm not there to disrupt them.
Right.
These things, the sensitivity is very important.
And make sure everybody is on the same page, because I'll tell you, I was at a location one time with a colleague of mine, and I'm asking questions. I'm in this long,
the one we shall not name,
dark tunnel, and I'm like, why don't you come out? Because I could hear it, and I could hear like a breath. I'm going, all right. Look at my colleague going, not him. He's too far away. But I'm saying, please come closer, maybe just, touch one of us. And I kept hearing, please don't come closer. Please don't touch me. Please don't come closer. I'm just like, I didn't even hear that until I got into the recording. And I'm like, what is this?
Wow.
And I'm just like, and this is supposed to be a seasoned researcher. And I get it. Sometimes people, you have a degree of fear or uncertainty, but don't be put in that position. Like, don't allow yourself to go into a position if you're not 100% comfortable, because the spirit beings know it. They're still people. They're spirit people. And if you got one who really wants to have fun with you, that's a sort of like a little bit of an invitation. We have a respectful spirit, however, Kathy.
Yes, I agree, Michelle. I would like to know what he went through. I have many ancestors. I'd like to know more about their death.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that's a big one. That's a big one. But there's a lot, I guess that's where sitting with a good medium will do. That's a big part of it.
Thank you, Zach. Zach says, I like your approach, Amelia. It shows that you respect them. If I was a spirit, I'd be more likely to communicate with someone that approaches me with respect. Well, I hope that if I approach you, you'd communicate with me anyways, even though you're alive. But
wave a cigar at you.
It's I got one from Cuba. Yeah, exactly. Cubans are sold at the corner store here. Yeah, I just feel that it's entirely important. And how Wayne said, I would tell them my name and tell them why I'm there. Hi, Wayne. That's very important. And Wayne knows that, living in a haunted home. He understands that. In fact, you would let them know when you were filming there
all the
and
time.
Give them that respect as well. You have to treat them as if they were in their physical form.
It was like that when I did large events at Casa Loma in Toronto, and Sir Henry Pellet was the builder, the owner, and he only had the place for 10 years before he lost it. A whole other long story. But I was brought in by the Kiwanis at the time, and then, of course, the city of Toronto. And every night before the crowds arrived, and we did a historical tour, and that's where I would teach people about equipment, and we would talk about how to do proper voice recordings, proper spirit photography, ghostly etiquette, I guess you could say. And we gave you the whole history of everything. It was really an amazing experience to be given, this building after hours. And I was fortunate enough to have it, for investigation a few times, actually, alone. It was very cool. But every night before the crowds arrived, because we'd get between 100 and 125 people a night, and I would go through the castle, and I would go to where I knew the spirits were. And one, of course, being Sir Henry Pellet, who wasn't stuck there, by the way. He's been spotted there a lot, but he was not grounded. Like, everybody picked up that he was just happy to be there, and he just, really come to terms with everything that happened. He did.
Yeah.
So I would walk, I would walk into his study, and I would say, "Oh, hey, Sir Henry, how are you? We're expecting this many people this evening. They're going to be roaming about here and there. We're starting over here at this part of the house, 180,000 square feet. So we're going to be moving over here, and that was it. And there was this one building off site, which was called the cottage. And this is where the family lived while the castle, and it was a full-on castle, was being built. But before the castle was built, there was a huge stable that was built. And back, in like 1900, early 1900, I think it was like $200,000 or $300,000 to build a stable, which looked like a mini castle. Just, phenomenal.
Yes.
So this place was really amazing. And they opened it up for a different part of the tour. So I'm by myself in the house, and I'm at the end of the night. I was like, okay, because we were there all the time, I would put all the cameras away, in locked closets so people could still tour throughout the day. And one night I'm in there, and something keeps flicking the lights on and off. And I'm trying to see the camera. So I'm sitting, I'm trying to undo it to put it in the closet. Something flicks the lights. And I'm like, okay, go back, put the light on, go back over to the tripod, just trying to get things moving. It clicks the light off. So I finally just said, like, okay, you know what? I sat down in the middle of the floor, and I said, I can do this all night. I don't really care. This is, you want me to go home. I want to go home, but I have to do this. So if you don't let me do this, I'm just going to sit here and talk to you all night. All of a sudden the light goes on. So then I put the thing in the closet, locked everything up, and I went, good night. And then I walked down the stairs, and I heard behind me click, and the light went off. It was like, huh. So, but this is what happens when you build a rapport with spirits who are regulars there, whether they're stuck or not stuck. You build a rapport. Whoever it was is probably a caretaker of the property. At one point, it was having a riot. I thought it was a pretty good sport considering, but yes.
Dog keeps walking behind the TV on the floor.
Nice.
Get out.
All right.
Sorry.
So Chris says,
each time I went to Waverly Hills, I shielded so hard there's no way I would be able to sense a spirit. I do that in crowds as well. I don't want to feel other people's emotions. I know what Michelle's going to tell you. You can do that grounding and still be able to be a part of what's going on.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to do one last location before we slowly sign off.
Yeah, we're at the end.
This is one of the Great Lake Islands. There are many Great Lakes islands, but a lot of people who live along the Great Lakes have a lot of phenomenal experiences. I've lived along the Great Lakes and have some great experiences. But this one is a little bit near and dear because this one, my parents actually went to on their honeymoon back in the day, and then took my sisters and I as teenagers. And it's super haunted. It's Mackinac Island in Michigan. It's a super haunted island located on Lake Huron. Well, there is Mackinac City, but Mackinac Island is they only allow 3 vehicles. One is an ambulance, one is a fire truck, and I believe one is it's another emergency vehicle of sorts. I don't remember. Yep. So just an amazing little town. And it's roughly 4 square miles of land between Upper and Lower Peninsula of Michigan. And long before the Europeans arrived, the island was home to the Odawa settlement. It was an essential part of the fur trade, which led to the establishment of Fort Mackinac by the British. It was the site of 2 battles in the War of 1812. In the middle of the 1800s, it had become home to commercial fishing and became the island's biggest industry. In fact, the governor of Michigan has a huge a huge property up there. So it became Michigan's first state park in 1895 after the government's departure. By the end of the 19th century, cars were restricted and continues to this very day. So I know, again, that, the whole place is haunted, but the Grand Hotel is said to be the primary hotspot for paranormal activity. Legend says that when the hotel was being built, the workers found a body while digging the foundation. Another story tells of an evil entity, black mask, red eyes, says to rush at people. In the hotel's theater, stories of a man with a top hat has been seen playing the piano at the bar, while others have seen a Victorian woman roaming the halls and sometimes even getting into the beds. Another hot spot is the drowning pool, where 7 women were accused of being witches in 17 and 1800s. And back then, of course, it's the traditional method. If you're a witch, you were tied to the rocks by your feet, drowned, right, thrown into the water. And if you sank, you were innocent. And of course, if you didn't, they would drown, right? So visitors report mysterious splashing, shadows, and dark figures floating above the surface. The fort itself is also very haunted. I've been. It's a crazy place. People have reported seeing strange orbs, apparitions of phantom limbs, sound of crying babies, phantom furniture sounds, ghostly children laying with toys or playing with toys. And a list of paranormal activity is long, and the island is well worth the visit. So I think if you're definitely getting to a point where you can visit, I absolutely say go and visit, because it is an unbelievable place with some of the best fudge ever.
And it's only 3 hours from Saginaw, which is completely haunted. There's a whole series of films by Steve Shippey based on that. Lost his flip-flop. You put your foot in Lake Ontario, you'd lose your foot. Just saying.
Man,
I'm 10 minutes from Lake Ontario.
Glows in the dark.
It'll glow in the dark.
So,
yeah. Wow. Yeah. If you go to Mackinac, take the 3-hour tour, not on a boat.
Not on a boat.
And head into Saginaw. It is all haunted.
It's unbelievable. And I know they have their own paranormal team there as well. And they do all kinds of investigations. So you can probably even get a ghost tour now. I mean, that would be really cool. So there's a lot. It takes a ferry to get there. You have to take the car, take the boat over.
Yes.
It's amazing, amazing place, guys. Highly recommended. And that being said, go ahead, Amelia.
No, thank you. I was just going to say, if you can't make it, there are so many docuseries on all of these locations that we gave you. You can find films on YouTube. You can find them on all the streamers, all these streaming platforms. Don't feel like you have to pay a fortune to travel, but there's some ideas. And if you're just not able to go, check them out. Look for the docuseries. Like I said, I know Mackinac and Saginaw are on DVD. And there's ways to stream them as well. Both locations in Michigan. Michigan's a very haunted place.
Any place we've talked about is very easy to access. And also remember, there's places like Alcatraz Island. There's old jails everywhere you can visit. It really depends on what your thing is.
I think Alcatraz shut down though.
All over the world, there are phenomenal places that you can visit. So
jails in your own cities have old abandoned jails have tours that you can do.
Exactly. And with that being said, guys, we are pretty much there at the end of another segment. And we want to thank everybody for tuning into chat. You guys just make it so much more fun. This is why we do one once a month. Sometimes more if you're lucky. Yeah, we just have a lot of fun. So big thank you to Folgers Coffee for sponsoring the show tonight and every night. Thank you. We appreciate you so very much. Big thank you to Justin Snicker, aka Dr. Snick, the Sonic Surgeon, for providing us with his music and his voice for our intro and outro. Big thank you to Steve McGinnis, the horror artist, illustrator. I should always say illustrator. Sounds so much better. Anyway, for our banners and all of the artwork here on the Outer Realm. So I'm gonna play our podcast awards for those of you guys who do listen to it because it's brand new. So we'll be playing a couple at the end of the show, ours of course. But next week, guys, the Outer Realm welcomes back Philip Kinsella. He's going to be discussing his book Terrestrial Trespassers. He even talks about his experiences with reptilians, like alien reptilians, big guys. Not talking reptilians.
Creepy dudes.
Big, yes.
Yeah.
And Thursday night, the Outer Realm welcomes for the very first time Kim Moser. And she's from the East Coast of Canada. And she's a folklorist. And she's had many paranormal experiences. She's been on shows such as Beyond Oak Island. What else does she do? What else? Why am I brain shooting? Beyond Oak Island, Chase Boat Driver, Telltale Productions, The Last Divide, all kinds. Curse of Oak Island, also Maritime Mediums. There's all kinds of shows that she's been on. But she's also going to be a guest speaker at the Halifax Paranormal Symposium on October the 7th. And it's got a lot of big names that are going to be on there. And we are really, really pleased that she's going to be joining us. And she's really just delightful. And she's had a lot of paranormal experiences. And she's going to be sharing a lot of that with us. So until then, good night. Have a fantastic weekend. And we shall see you guys next week. And we're going to leave you off with a couple of more podcast awards. So please hang tight and listen. Especially, because one of them is brand new, but this one is ours.
All right, everybody. It's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcasts. There's an amazing show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards. The Outer Realm in the category of Best Female Hosted Podcast. The Outer Realm is a very popular show hosted by Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano, which boasts millions of listeners each week who are well known for and have been complimented on their very laid-back, roundtable style of interviewing. Together, this dynamic duo brings you the best of the best with guests from around the world who are well-versed within their respective fields of ufology, paranormal, esoteric, and other areas of high strangeness, and more. So go to podcastawards.com to nominate The Outer Realm in the category Best Female Hosted Podcast. That's podcastawards.com. And please take a moment and do it now.
It's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcast. There's an amazing show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards. Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast in 3 categories: education, storyteller drama, and art. For 4 years, the Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast has provided advice and tips from international best-selling authors, world-class artists, contest judges and winners, and industry professionals based on the world-famous Writers of the Future contest created in 1983 by L. Ron Hubbard to help the aspiring writer and artist no matter their age. It is dedicated to the future of storytelling and art by showing that it is never too late to start, and those who make it are those who never give up. Go to podcastawards.com to nominate the Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast in any or all of the 3 categories: education, storyteller drama, and art. That's podcastawards.com, and please take a moment and go out and vote now.